Like, what's the popular attitudes about pot right now?
I think, well, it's interesting because it's nuanced. Like, if you ask Americans, should weed be legal, 68% say yes. If you ask, Gallup actually just released a poll, I think yesterday. And that poll was really interesting. They basically took the question to Americans: is marijuana, does it have a positive or negative effect on society? And it's really split. It was like almost 50-50 down the line on the effect on society. And then when you get down to it, like, does that person who answered your question smoke weed? Like 70% of them are going to say it's positive.
I can eat all the peanut butter I want.
Yeah,
Stare
exactly.
at my hand as much as you want.
Right.
Not that I have done it, but
Of course not. But yeah, so it's, America's attitudes, are changing. And then when you look at bipartisan support, there are indicators of that. The Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has his own bill out with Cory Booker and Ron Wyden, both senators. All three of them are Democrats. And then Representative Nancy Mace, she's a Republican, and she has her own bill.
quite different. It's very similar.
Similar in many ways, but like very different in, as you could imagine, Republican versus Democrat, like taxes. So Mace's bill, very low excise tax. Schumer's bill is a higher excise tax. And like, speaking of taxes, like, this is the reason why we continue to have an illicit market. There's multiple reasons, but taxes and the banning of interstate commerce. So right now, marijuana is still a Schedule I drug, which is, according to the DEA, it's a drug. Heroin is in the same category, which it has no medical value and high potential for abuse.
Back from reefer madness kind of mentality, right?
Yeah, and these laws were made in the 70s, so this is, it's, obviously reefer madness was before that, but still, like, the war against drugs, like, Richard Nixon launched that and made marijuana illegal. So, first take taxes. So marijuana is a controlled substance, like I said, Schedule I. So the tax code, the U.S. tax code, there's a tax code for everything, right? If you pay or accept political bribes, you should, when you file taxes, you should, note that. There's a tax code called 280E, and that is basically anybody who traffics a controlled substance needs to pay under this tax code, and it prevents most deductions. So the only deduction you can take is cost of goods sold. So that's like an effective tax rate of like 60%.
Right.
And there's a fascinating history behind how that tax code created. But
so we need to make it friendlier for the people selling pot to make a higher profit? Is that the
essentially, like, across the board? This isn't, profits are really tough to come by. There are companies that are profitable, obviously, right? But there's, like, the saying in the industry, like, if you're talking to analysts and investors, they're like, companies are profitable, and then 280E happens, and it takes away all the profits off the table.
Right.
Not exactly true, but it really
And both of
takes
these bills would address that?
Yeah, both bills would remove cannabis from Schedule I status and basically regulate it similarly to alcohol and tobacco.
What about